Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Tank Talk podcast. So happy you are with us today because we've got a great subject for you, John. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about another one of my favorite topics, something that a lot of people are going to be able to get a lot from, and that is, what are the easiest fish to keep in this hobby? I've done several videos on my channel that are about this topic. I'm sure you have too on yours. It's one of those that seems to resonate with a lot of people, so I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
And sometimes you just want fish that are they're not finicky. You don't have to worry about them as much. You feed them, you care for them with the water changes, and it's going to work out just fine. But before we get into this list, can we talk about one of our channel sponsors, and that is our channel sponsor, Fritz Aquatics. Fritz Aquatics has been a channel supporter for a long time, since the beginning, and we really thank them for that. They have all kinds of really awesome things. John's grabbing something, but I beat him to it because we have things like the liquid test kits. They also have, do I have it? Yep. They also have the test strips. John's holding up perhaps one of the best products they make, and that is the Fritz Zyme 7. Although I will say my bottle is better.
Why? It's the same one.
I know. That's the joke.
And mine has the new label on it. Fancy matte finish.
Oh, you
label.
have a new label?
Yeah.
No,
so
mine's got the same label, doesn't it?
No, mine has the nice matte finish on it. It looks so much better than yours.
All right.
But
anyway,
yours is probably better because mine is empty because I used it all in
mine
that
is
tank.
not empty. So if you are not familiar with Fritz Aquatics, they sell some of the best aquarium conditioners and chemicals and medications and testing equipment out there. You can go to keepfishkeeping.com, check it out, because that's where all of this stuff exists. So now that we have that, we need to talk about some fish. And I thought the best way to do this is let's kind of organize our thoughts based on tank size. We'll start small, work our way to the larger ones, because if you like the simple fish in the small tank, or the easy fish, not simple, you can always just put more of them in a larger tank, right? So
Very true.
I figured let's stay with the most popular tank sizes, so like the 10 gallon, all right? If you were going to set up a 10 gallon aquarium and you wanted some easy fish to put in there, what are we doing?
Well, I can tell you what my very first answer to that would be. And let me just say, before we get real deep into it, I know how this list is going to go. I'm going to be the guy that's going to be giving a list of fish that are like everyday fish that everybody knows and you can find at every Petco or PetSmart out there. You're going to be the one that's going to be bringing up the crazy obscure fish that have these fancy scientific names and I've probably never heard of. But that's what I love about our dynamic, is that you know those fancy fish and I just know the easy ones that everybody knows. But I think that's why we work well together. And on that note, I'm going to talk about one of the most common, no, not guppies, because way too many people struggle with guppies. 10 gallon tank, I'm going to put one of the most fun fish in this hobby, the zebra Daniel. Absolutely bulletproof. They are spastic, crazy, all over the place, nonstop, 100 miles an hour. If they stop, then there's a problem. So you know when they're not going well, but they almost never go not well, as if that makes any sense, because they're super easy to keep. They're easy to feed. They don't require a huge tank, and they will provide you with as much, if not more, entertainment than probably any other fish that we're going to talk about on this list, because they're just so crazy and all over the place and really pretty at the same time. Zebra Daniels.
That's a great pick. Now, for some reason, I can't keep zebra Daniels alive. So for me,
Really?
they're not only not easy, I don't know. Listen, I've tried. And not just the zebra Daniels. I'm having problems with the pearl Daniels. I had the fire lines for a while. And for whatever reason, that super easy fish, which, by the way, you're right, most people don't have any issues. I do. But I have one for a 10 gallon tank it's not uncommon, and it's actually relatively inexpensive. And this is a fish that is very, very difficult for me to wipe out of a tank. And that is the brilliant green rasbora.
Mm-hmm.
The brilliant green rasbora is a gorgeous fish. As the name implies, it's got a lot of green to its body. It's got some red in the tail. If you're looking for a fish that's going to school tightly, that's your guy right there. They're one of the tightest schooling fish that I've ever kept. They are active, not quite as crazy as the zebra Daniel, but they are an active fish that'll constantly be swimming back and forth. Going to max out right around an inch and a half or so, maybe slightly larger. Super peaceful. This is a fish. It's not a fin nipper. They're not going to go after one another. They're not going to go after your other fish. Really nice, especially if you have a planted tank, because they kind of will swim in and out of the plants, which is really cool. So for a 10-gallon, definitely love the Brilliant Green Rasbora. Now, surely you have another 10-gallon option, or maybe not, but there's got to be more than just those. Okay, bring it.
I do. I have a couple more that, when I put my little list together of really super simple fish that you can get pretty much anywhere, even Walmart used to sell them, I didn't realize we were going to be breaking it down by tank size. So I think that a lot of mine are probably going to skew towards the smaller tank size, but so I do have other options. And this one in particular would have been the one that I would have said if we had gone even smaller to a 5-gallon tank. And that's this guy right here, Bettas. Now, I understand, and we just had this happen. I'm sitting here telling you zebra Danios, you could raise them in a sewer and they would be completely fine. Jason is saying he can't keep Danios. This is a thing. This happens. Fish that are easy for me might not be easy for him, and it might go the other way around. Another one that would be great for a 10-gallon, maybe not, but is Guppies. But I was reluctant to say Guppies because Lisa and I are too good at keeping Guppies. But every time we talk about Guppies being easy fish to keep, we get 50 comments that say, what are you talking about? I can't keep Guppies alive to save my life. So I understand, and I'm sure I can speak for Jason here, there are going to be fish on this list that we are going to say are really easy, but you may have struggled with them. And welcome to fish keeping. That's all I have to say. But Bettas, I mean, listen, everybody knows there's a reason why they're one of the most popular fish in the entire hobby. They do not require a large tank. You can go even smaller than a 10-gallon. Don't go below 5 gallons, though. Do the right thing. None of this 2.5-gallon, 1-gallon nonsense. No, at least 5-gallon. Personality. We're going to talk about a couple of fish on this list that actually have personalities. A betta, if you have it in a 5-gallon, you put it on your desk, that betta will watch you. Like, you can't do anything in private because it'll watch you, as it'll know what videos you're watching on YouTube. It'll know what you're doing at your desk. It'll sit there and stare at you. It'll interact with you. I love that. Any fish that'll do that has got my vote for sure. And they are easy to keep, but they have been bred so much. And there's so many bad farms out there that you can get some bad ones. But if you get a betta from a good, reputable supplier that's sourcing their bettas from good, solid farms, they're one of the easiest fish in the hobby to keep. And I'm sorry to once again be so long-winded. I should have just been able to say, bettas, they're easy. And I don't say the name right.
That would be a really quick podcast. These are the easy fish. We just give a list and walk away. Give a list and walk away. So agree with you. The bettas, when you used to sell them on keepfishkeeping.com, I would recommend people go to you. Now that you are no longer doing that, if you go to just any store, especially the Petcos and the PetSmarts, the likelihood that your betta is going to be around in 2 years is actually pretty low, in my opinion. But you want to find somebody who's either breeding them or somebody who is bringing them in and quarantining them and really knows how to care for them and really has the connections with the farms overseas, where they're not just getting all the random cast-offs, where they're getting some of the higher quality bettas. And I think once you do that, you've got a super enjoyable fish that's going to be around for 4 or 5 years and show great color and be personable and interactive. I would include the Guppies here as an easy fish, but again, it's the same exact thing. Don't get your Guppies from a...
Right.
I have a pretty solid understanding of guppy distribution. And unfortunately, most guppies, even the ones at Petco and PetSmart, a lot of your local fish stores are buying them from the same exact place.
Yep.
And they're all, in my opinion, they're all a problem. I could not keep guppies alive when I was buying them from pet stores. I thought I had a problem. Like, I don't know what my issue is, maybe. And I have water parameters that are really good for guppies, but I couldn't keep them alive. And then I started buying guppies in my area from local breeders. There was a Chicago Live Bearer Society. I got some guppies from Twin Cities Guppies at one point. Jay Oliver has some nice guppies. But I got these guppies from actual reputable breeders. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. And all of a sudden I had my guppy party tank where there was like 150 guppies in a 20 gallon. I'm selling these things at swaps. Completely different story, super enjoyable, and they can live for a long time. But it's all about sourcing. The guppies
Yep.
that you get them from people who you know are actually breeding them.
Yeah, the guppies that Lisa and I have such a problem with right now, believe it or not, came from Mrs. Diana Walstead, the author of the Ecology of the Planted Aquarium, very famous in the planted aquarium world. Lisa got 2 females from her that had big fat bellies, and well, we're overrun with them now. And so we just call them Diana's guppies, and it's glorious. And I'm going to say something before, hopefully, we move on to the next size tank, but I do have one more that can go in a 10 gallon if I need it. I want to start a little bit of controversy because I think most people, I should say, when they ask what's the best source for betas or bettas for people who say it correctly, a lot of people would vote what? Indonesia, Taiwan, right?
Maybe, yeah.
What would you say?
I think that there's some nice bettas coming out of Vietnam.
I said Taiwan. I meant Thailand. I'm not going to edit that out.
Sure. Yeah, no, we all know. Yeah, there's some bettas coming out of Vietnam that are quite nice, but also there's some coming out of Europe that are pretty darn good too.
Well, my answer to that, I'm actually upset with you because you stole it from me. The best betas I've ever seen in my life come from Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it's not just that they're more beautiful. They are hardier, they're stronger, they're more vibrant. They're the most magnificent fish I've ever seen. So yeah, if you can find a source that has them from Vietnam, I think my personal opinion is that's where they are best. But Thailand, again, I don't know why I said Taiwan earlier. I feel dumb. But Thailand is kind of the unanimous, that's where the betas come from. But
And Indo.
no. Right. But no, the best are coming from Vietnam. I don't know. But do I need to go one more 10 gallon or are we ready to move on?
You don't have to. I mean, I've got one because we didn't really talk about like the cleanup crew sort of thing. And I think a mystery snail is one that for the most part, as long as you've got water on the heart, did I steal one from you?
Yes, that was the only other one I had.
Oh, sorry. You told me a list. It was like 50 things long. I don't remember all of them. But so John's pick, and I agree with him subliminally, is the mystery snail. I just think it's a great, just throw it in there. You don't have to worry about it getting ick. It doesn't get the bacterial infections. You just can't have super soft water, right? If you've got soft water, then that might be an issue. But if you've got medium to hard water, they're pretty easy going. Throw in Cat's Aquatics food or something like that, or something that's got some calcium infused food, and you're in good shape. And they just kind of wander around the aquarium and offer a lot of interest. And they're really just put it in there and forget about it.
This is one of the best snails too, because they're so big and you can actually see what a snail's body is supposed to look like. And yes, they look like Gary from SpongeBob. It's adorable. They're so much fun. They're available in so many different colors. Yes, we do sell them, but I mean, lots of people sell them. Lisa breeds her own mystery snails. They are not like ram's horns in that they can just all reproduce without having a partner. I don't know what that's called. Jason, you're the scientist. You know what that is, but mystery snails aren't that way. So if you buy just one, they should be fine. And they're also not going to leave eggs laying around like a nerite snail will, because they lay their eggs in clutches up above the water. So it's super easy, super fun. They're not as slow moving as you think. They explore, and they'll explore onto plant leaves and stuff. It's just a lot of fun to watch, and they get a lot bigger than you think. So yeah, buckle up. They're a good time. And my wife is completely obsessed with them. So she might get a tattoo of one someday.
Oh boy. On her neck. Mystery snail tattoo on her neck.
Unless she plans on filing for divorce, she will not be doing that on her neck. Sorry to all of those neck wearing tattoo people, but I'm not into that.
So
I love
Moving
tattoos,
up.
just not on the neck. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. No, we got you. Uh, 20 gallon. So now we got some more. We've got a tank volume that's obviously doubled. I've always said, to me, that 20 gallon is a really great beginner size aquarium because you've got so many stocking options. So now we're looking for easy fish. Obviously, all the ones we've already mentioned could go into a 20, but what
Yep.
can we do in a 20 gallon that we weren't really doing in a 10 gallon?
Well, I can't answer that yet because if I was going to say guppies, I actually would have said guppies in 20 gallon, not 10 gallon. Why? Not because they get too big for a 10 gallon, but guppies are going to reproduce like crazy. If you put males and females together, you're not going to be able to stop them from doing that. And so having that 20 gallon, you're going to be able to support a lot more of those babies in there. But since we've already talked about guppies and people are going to argue that guppies are difficult anyway, let's move on to another live bearer, swordtails. You could probably fit swordtails in a 10 gallon. I don't know. No, maybe not. 20 gallon is actually perfect. I love swordtails. Simple. Again, easy. That's why we're talking about them here today. Fascinating with the sword and all. It's very cool. All the different colors. I love swordtails. Not my favorite fish on the list, but I love swordtails. You don't have to worry about them hurting anybody. Really got to more worry about people hurting them, not people, but other fish. I don't know. You can't go wrong with swordtails. Bright red. Come on. It's crazy.
The swordtails are pretty cool. I would say if we're looking at a 20 gallon, I like the snakeskin barb. It is absolutely a gorgeous fish. And it's not, I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, this is a barb. It's going to create all kinds of issues. These barbs are not fin nippers. They're relatively easy on one another. I've kept them in 20 gallons plenty of times. You get a half a dozen, and that's actually a barb where you get a half a dozen and they just kind of hang out together. They don't pick each other off the way other barbs do as the colonies get smaller. They're not super active like some of the other barbs are. So if I had a 20 gallon, I was looking for a fish that is really just a more or less a bulletproof fish. Man, the snakeskin barb's got to be up there for me.
I love it. Those are fascinating. And again, I knew you were going to do it. I knew you were going to think of fish that I would never have thought of. Not that I don't know those fish, but I would have never thought to do that. I like to keep things very simple because I'm a very simple person. I'm not very smart. My next one for a 20 gallon, again, is another one that is kind of, you're kind of close. Maybe you'd be okay and not get yelled at if you put in a 10 gallon. But again, I didn't know we were going to be breaking these down by gallons. I'm going to go with the good old trusty Serpe Tetra. Again, this is a fish that you can go anywhere and find. And they're going to cost you like $2. They're super cheap. Maybe not two, not anymore, but super cheap, super easy, and gorgeous. Beautiful. And again, I know I'm the simpleton here, but Serpe Tetras, really? Come on, bring us something better than that, John. But I love Serpe Tetras. I always have. I don't currently have any, but I probably should get some for my 20 gallon. That's completely overrun with guppies right now. But I've always been a sucker for Serpe Tetras.
Yeah, those are awesome fish. I'm thinking towards the bottom of the aquarium, I love panda cories. So at this point, because we've imported so many, right now in our fish room, we've got Rust cories, Reynolds, gold lasers, Adolphi, Venezuelas. We've got Barbados. I also have black cories behind me here. We've probably brought in 15 to 20 different types of cory cats. And the panda cories, there are others that are every bit as robust, and that would be like the Adolphi cory. But the panda cories are really easy to find, and they're not super expensive. And usually, as with cory cats, as long as they're at least closing in on an inch, by that point, they are going to be really hardy fish, really easy to keep. They're not picky when you feed them. Panda cories don't mind it if the tank's a little cooler as well. So if you start getting that low to mid 70s area, they're fine, but they're also perfectly fine in the upper 70s, I found. So it's just a really well-rounded cory that's super peaceful. Keep them in a group of 4 to 6 too in a 20 gallon. That'll be really nice.
I'm not. No, see, you did it to me again because you knew I had cory cats on my list, but I didn't have specific. I just had cory cats on my list. So You're welcome for me writing this whole list here for
Yeah,
you
yeah,
today.
thank
But
you. But you also had a list that was like 50 fish long. So I'm coming at this. I don't have any notes, man. I'm just going to go with my listening to my heart.
I understand. It's an easy way to do it, the old
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey way. But listen, where are we at with stir-bys in a 20? I mean, I know they get slightly larger, don't they? I'm not a Cory
Yeah,
expert, but they get a little
they
bigger
do.
than your pandas. But I don't think they are too big for a 20.
No, because
So
the thing is, most Cory cats can go in a 20-gallon because they're not super overly active, especially as they get larger. Yeah, smaller ones, they might be a little bit more active, but they're not fish that are swimming around all crazy like. So the vast majority of Cory cats can go in a 20-gallon. Maybe the Barbados, not maybe, the Barbados is probably too large because that's you're closing in on 3.5 inches with that particular Cory. It's longer. The rust Corys are maybe a little bit on the larger side. They might look a little off in a 20-gallon, but most Cory cats, I mean, even the standard green albinos, they're fine in a 20.
well, I got one for you. Not a Cory cat because I just said stir-bys, but Bristlenose Plecos. I'm not going to let you steal that one from me
No.
because,
And I
that's an easy
probably
one.
would
But
have because that would have been the other one that comes to mind too. So
yeah, Bristlenose Plecos, one of the ugliest fish in the entire hobby, yet they're so daggone cool. Just because they look like little aliens, they look like something out of The Last of Us. I mean, they're just so weird looking, but that's what makes them appealing to me. I love those. As far as which one, who cares? They're all cool. They're all neat. We have right now, we have one of the, I believe it's the L44, the zebra. We have two of those. We've got the super reds. I say we. Lisa's got all of these. They're just fun because they're so goofy looking. They look like little cartoon characters in there. So, and absolutely, all of the fish that we're talking about here are good for a 20-gallon and up. The bristlenose that we have right now are all in a 125. So, they're living their best life. But bristlenose plecos, they will be perfectly fine. They will breed like crazy in your 20-gallon. Give them some caves, watch them do their thing. Well, you can't because they'll do it in private, but all the babies will come out and it'll be really
plus
cool.
that's weird.
That's true. You're a weird person if you're watching that. But yeah, bristlenose plecos with the snails, they'll help you to, tidy things up a little bit. Not the algae eaters that people make them out to be, but they will help to clean things up a little bit, be those scavengers for you, and work really well with everything else we've talked about on this list.
And I do like the bristlenose. And one, to me, they do eat algae because I keep them in all my tanks for that purpose. The trick there is making sure that they're not getting like way overfed with a bunch of food that's fallen to the bottom. But if you've got a tank where there's a lot of competitiveness when it comes to food, that's why we have them in every single one of our tanks because they take care of the algae for us. And they still, even larger ones, they've been doing that. In a 20, if I were to suggest a bristlenose, the females would be a better option than the males, only because the females stay like an inch smaller and they're not as aggressive around feeding time. And so sometimes, like let's say you had a situation where you had Cory cats and bristlenose plecos in a 20. You drop some sinking pellets in there, that food, that male bristlenose is going to be a lot more assertive when it comes time to feed. So if you can figure out, hey, oh, this is a female, and usually as they start to get past that 2-inch mark, you can start to tell. The other thing to consider is those large bristles on the males. Sometimes people don't always like that. And then I really, when it comes to bristlenose, be careful when you're going to a pet store. If they've got bristlenose that are only like an inch or an inch and a half, they can still be in that area where it's like, are these going to make it? Am I going to bring them home and a week later find it at the bottom of the tank upside down? So if you're doing bristlenose, if you can get them at least a couple inches or larger, they're going to probably be a lot healthier.
Well, and there's nothing cuter than a bunch of bristlenose plecos. I mean, they don't have their bushy nose yet. They're just little teeny tiny plecos and they're all over the place. And let me clarify what I was saying there earlier. When I said they're not going to eat the algae like you want them to, I'm referring to people who buy them. They don't feed them. They just put them in the tank thinking that they're going to clean their tank for them. That is a massive mistake. They, of course, will scrape algae and eat algae, and they'll eat anything they can fit in their mouth. They're catfish, but they're not going to be these tank cleaners that people depend on them for. And I think that's why all plecos across the board are some of the most abused fish. in the hobby. I got to be honest with you, Adams. I'm, not somebody that has a lot of knowledge stored in my head. That I've exhausted my list for 20-gallon tank. I don't have any more.
So are we going to go from 20 to 55? Or are we making a stop off in the 29-gallon arena?
I have one that I would say for 29. So,
Okay.
we can stop there.
I've got a couple, and you're going to hear the dogs walking around upstairs because somebody just came in. So all that clicking for our audience, that's dogs. Dogs on hardwood floors. It's part of the experience here at the Tank Talk podcast.
We love dogs. It's okay.
The other one for a 20-gallon. Hold on. All right, so I've got one for a 20 that I really, really like. That is absolutely a super hardy fish, centerpiece fish, Crebensis.
Ooh, okay.
Love the Crebensis. They come in albino. They have regulars. Both the males and the females look great. They get some purple to them, especially the underbellies. The female turns pink. They're relatively peaceful. You can keep them with all the other fish we've talked about so far for a 20-gallon. If you get a pair, you might expect some breeding. That can be both good and bad. It's fun to see baby fish. Not so fun trying to get rid of those Crebensis. Sometimes they're a little bit harder to move. So even a single Crebensis can be a really, really nice addition to a 20-gallon tank.
Yeah, and I just thought of another one. Again, talking about me being the simpleton here, I'm going to think of all of the basic easy fish, and another one that you'll have a difficult time getting rid of if you breed them, and they will breed for you, right along the lines with Swordtales and Guppies, Platties.
Sure.
I mean, 20-gallon tank Platties, I don't care what color. My personal preference is the Mickey Mouse Platties. I just think it's adorable that they have a little Mickey Mouse on their tails. Love those, all the different colors. There's one that I saw, you may know the name of it. I have video footage of it. It almost looks like an OB peacock. They're like orange and blue, speckly. I absolutely love them.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. I was thinking of a lot of the live bears now are coming in like koi colors. So they have the orange and the white. I don't know that particular one, but that is a cool one. I also like the Variatus platy, especially the high fins. Those are really, really pretty. Again, you can keep those a little cooler. They don't get as large as the regular platies as well. So that's a really nice option as well.
And they're just bulletproof. They're just easy. I mean, and that's why PetSmart and Petco sells them, because they don't want to sell you fish that are going to die and then you bring them back and they got to give you your money back. They want to sell you fish that you're going to be successful with. So that's why I'm the guy that's just bringing up all the fish that you could buy at Petco.
All right, we got the 29-gallon. I got a couple doozies there for that one.
Well, I have two that are kind of borderline, but I'm going to stick with the theme here. I'm going to stick with my own theme here and talk about a live bear that I believe you're pushing it with a 20-gallon. There might be a lot of people that would argue with me, but Mollies. Mm-hmm. I mean, now, back in the day, maybe not so much anymore, but the Mollies that I see now are just the simplest thing in the world. When we've had them, they've just been like, you can pull them out of the tank, hit them with a hammer, throw them down on the ground, feed them to the cat poops it out, you put it back in the tank, it'll swim right back off again. That's been my experience with them. Other people might struggle, I don't know, but Mollies to me have always been super easy.
The only time I've been able to deal with Mollies successfully is, again, when I got them from an actual breeder, because what the problem is, if you look at their pathway from creation to pet store, if they're being bred overseas, sometimes they're being bred in that brackish water, because a lot of the areas where they're at are coastal. And so you wind up with some salt water getting mixed in. And if that happens, they wind up at a pet store. And usually you'll see those things clamp fins. They're starting to do the death wobble. They're just not looking quite right. So again, if you can find Mollies from somebody who's been breeding them in just straight up fresh water, the black Molly tank that I had when the low boy was a Molly tank right behind me here, those were just brought in from Chicago Live Bear Society. And I even asked them, like, man, am I going to have to add salt? They're like, no, these are fresh water. And they lived and reproduced for many, many years. So ideally, just like the Guppies, if you can find them from a breeder, it's a better option.
Breeders are always going to give you better fish. I don't care what they are, but there's also, there's the occasional store that, for whatever reason, the source that they get their fish from are great. The last time we bought Mollies, they were the yellow and black lyre tails that were the yellow front of the body and then the black the lyre tail and everything was black. Just absolutely fascinating looking fish. We bought those from a place called House of Tropicals in Glen Burnie, Maryland. And I'm telling you, they were absolute bulletproof fish. We could get in fist fights with those fish and they wouldn't even show a bruise. They were unbelievable. So, and a lyre tail molly, get out of here. I mean, that's
very
just
beautiful.
an absolutely gorgeous fish. I don't care who you are. So
Yeah, the only molly I wouldn't keep in a 29 would be the sailfins. Sailfins get way too big. Males get way too aggressive. I actually used to keep the sailfins in my 33 long Lake Tanganyika tank, and it was a really good mix. The one I've got for a 29, a little bit harder to find, but this is another super hardy fish. We bring these fish in periodically for swaps, and it's rare that we lose even a single one, and that is the Empire Gudgeon. Empire Gudgeon, look it up. It's not hard to spell. Empire Gudgeon. If you want something that is truly unique. Now, the males are the ones that show all the color. I did a species profile on that fish. You guys can check it out, and you'll see those males just absolutely fired up. They look insane. Not super aggressive. They tolerate one another well. They tolerate other fish, more or less just ignore other fish. They don't have a very big mouth, so it's not like they're going to be eating your rasboras or anything like that, but they get a little larger. They can max out somewhere around that 3.5 inch range, especially the males. But this is you want something a little bit different. Now, they're not cheap. They're easy. They're hardy, but they are not cheap. Retail, you could be spending anywhere from $20 to $40 a piece for these fish, but it's different. And if you're into different fish, it's worth a try.
don't you have a gudgeon of some type in that low boy behind you? Or was that a...
Yeah, that's the original gobies and gudgeons tank. And so I took the gobies out and threw them in the 125. I had purple spots in there. In the low boy, I have 4 Empire gudgeons in there. I got 2 males and 2 females.
Nice.
Yeah,
see,
they're really cool.
I'm not that dumb. I remember
No,
things.
you know.
And every once in a while, I see them swim up, and it's adorable. 29 gallons. I'm that's it for me. I mean, I do have one that probably. No, I got one on my list that I haven't mentioned yet, and it could have gone 20.
Okay.
But again, let's keep things simple. John's the simple guy. Dwarf gouramis.
For sure.
I mean, and gouramis, until you start talking about giant gouramis, but the opalines and the kissing gouramis and all of those would be great for 29s. The dwarf gouramis could be in significantly smaller, into even 20 gallons, 10 gallons, probably the dwarfs. And the honeys, I don't see why not, but correct me if I'm wrong, but gouramis are fascinating. They're fun. They're gorgeous. Opalines, I am a sucker for those. I absolutely love them. They do have their challenges, but treat them like you would a beta and you'll be fine. I mean, I've always had good luck with them. I don't know. Maybe I'm just stupid or something.
Yeah, the dwarf gouramis for me have always been hit or miss, mostly because there's a thing called dwarf gourami disease, and that can be it's something you really can't treat. It's actually a virus. And so that could be an issue. And so I kind of stayed away from the dwarf gouramis. The honey gourami I've had much better luck with, but that one you can easily put in a 10 gallon. You've got the gold honeys and the standard reds, and those are really cool to mix together. If I were picking a smaller gourami for a 29, I would do exactly what I did in one of my 29s when I had the fish room up and running, and that is the thick lip gourami. So it's about the size of a dwarf gourami, not as much color. Like the true dwarf gouramis, they come in like 4 different varieties, like the powder blues and the reds. The thick lip is more like a honey gourami, just a little bit larger, slightly more assertive. I would only keep one in a tank, but that's a really nice one. Super hardy fish as well.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, and I want to reiterate, my list is fish that I have found easy to keep. Obviously, it's not the same scenario for Jason. And so if people are like, what are you kidding me? All I've ever done is killed mollies. Well, I haven't. So, not everybody's going to agree with this on the list. I didn't refer, when I came up with my list, I didn't refer to, some kind of national survey that was done. This is just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And when we get into 55s, I think that's when we really start to have fun.
Yeah.
But I don't want to steal the thunder, even though I guess I went gouramis last. So yeah, you're up.
I got one more that I think would be pretty interesting. I guess you could put this in a 20 gallon, but The other one that I really like is the red cherry tetra, because it's another one where we bring in, again, from my perspective, it's like, okay, what am I bringing in where I almost never lose anything, where my customers like, oh, those are the awesomest fish ever. The red cherry tetra it's got the shape of a lemon tetra, but with a very, very deep orange, almost red color. They're actually coming down in price. They used to be like 15, $20 a piece. They're coming down in price now because people are figuring out how to breed them, and they're just becoming a little bit more common. So if you can run across the red cherry tetra for a 20 or a 29 gallon, it's a really hardy fish. We very rarely have issues with them.
I don't know that I've seen them in a long time, but I only have one fish store around me, so if he ain't got them, I don't see them. So I haven't seen those in a while. So you ready to ramp things up again and start having
Let's
some
go
fun and
55.
get to some serious gallonage here?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this one first because I'll be really upset if you steal it from me. And the next one on my 55 gallon list, I know you won't steal from me. I'm going with what is probably the most stunning, picturesque. It is responsible for more business logos than any other fish in this hobby that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm just talking about the regular old freshwater angelfish. I am a sucker for angels. Everybody knows this. Everybody that knows me. I'm looking at a tank that's got like 12 of them in there right now. None of them belong to me. They're all Lisa's, but uh, I can't get enough angels. And that's one of those fish. I believe you and I have had this conversation on the podcast before. It would be one of those fish that I would struggle to not be the one I chose if I could only ever have one fish, because they're so majestic, so easy. Yes, I realize if they're breeding, they can become a problem. But when we're talking about what's an easy fish to keep, you don't have to be fussy to keep angels. They're just easy. Put them in water and they'll just be beautiful. But I do think when we start talking 55s, that's when we get to the appropriate size aquarium for angels. A lot of people put them in stuff smaller. I think that's wrong. Can they survive? Sure, but I don't like that. You know, a Rottweiler can survive in a closet, but that doesn't mean it's okay. So 55 gallon, at least get you 6 or 8 of them. You'll probably get several pairs from there, but that's okay because angel babies are adorable. And there you go. Angels. What colors? What variety? All of them.
It's a good thing you said it, because that would have been the first one that came to mind for the 55 gallon as well. That was what I
Nice.
was thinking. I'm like, oh, angelfish would be a really, really awesome addition. Again, you run the risk in terms of whether or not they're easy when they're really tiny. So I know they are absolutely the cutest things in the world when you see them at dime size, quarter size at the pet store, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need them. But that is when you're still in that risk on area. Get them a little larger, right? Size of a 50-cent piece, maybe a little bit larger than that. You're going to pay a little bit more, but by the time they're that size, they are much more hardy and they're going to live many, many years. So it's not like, oh, I got them that size and then they only have a year or two left in them. No, no, no. If you get them about the size of a 50-cent piece, and they will grow to the size of the palm of your hand, the body will, and you've got a decade with those fish at least. One of the ones that comes to mind, again, not always super common, and I think it gets a bad rap, and that is the melon barb. So the melon barb, the reason why I think it's appropriate for a 55 but not really a 29 is it's a slightly larger barb. They're going to max out right around, I think it's like 3 inches or so. A lot of really nice color. They have this really soft white, but they also have a little bit of blue, a little bit of pink to them. When we brought them in, they were super active fish, but I found that, again, they tolerated one another fairly well, much better than tiger barbs do. And they weren't as fin nippy, but they were super aggressive eaters. And by the way, they eat duckweed, as most barbs do. I think I've mentioned that in the
It's a
past.
miracle
But
fish.
yeah, so that is definitely one in a 4-foot tank. By the time we get to a 55, throw 8 or 10 of those in, you can have a really cool aquarium.
Nice. Yeah, that's one I'm not even familiar with that
Yeah.
one. So um, now this is another one, and this is one that probably could have been argued. And this is a fish I hate. I'm just being honest with you. I despise this fish. I will never keep this fish again. Somebody could come to my fish house, put a gun to my head, and say, "You must take these fish," and I'd just be like, "Shoot me now," because I'm not going to deal with it. But when we talk about easy fish, I don't think there's an easier fish in this list that's easier than convict cichlids. They're a problem. They're a problem. Now listen. When I say easy, I don't necessarily mean they're going to get along with everything. They're never going to cause problems. They're just the most delightful thing. That's not what I'm talking about when I say easy fish. What I mean is you're not going to have to be finicky and fussy with water parameters, and you're not going to have to be one of those persons that's absolutely spot on with your maintenance. You should always be, but even if you're not, convicts are still going to thrive. They're still going to do really well, and they're still going to breed, and it's a problem because their spawns are like 300 babies, and as soon as you get rid of those babies, another batch will pop up. It's a huge problem, and nobody wants them. But that doesn't change the fact that they're easy to keep. And they're also, I mean, I'll tell you who wants them. Beginners want them because they don't know any better. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, but they see the fish and they're like, whoa, with the black bars. And I get it. They call them convicts because, at least I think this is why, because the bars look like a jail cell, and that's really cool. And they're so fascinating. And then they buy them, and they a month later realize they've made a huge mistake because they're jerks and because they breed too much. But that doesn't change the fact that they're easy to keep.
And the way to get around that is just keep one, right? Don't buy more than one convict. And then you absolutely have to have a similar style of aquarium. So you're dealing with these South Central American cichlids. You could make an argument that a full size male convict is too large for a 55 gallon, right? Eventually you'd have to move them up to another tank. I've seen those fish, like my hand is spread out. The body is bigger than my hand, and they're
I've never seen one that big.
Very few people, that's just it. Very few people have seen full size convicts in all of their glory. It is one of the better looking fish that you will find. Beautiful. I know they're super common. I know they breed like rats, but when you've got a fish where the body is as large as your hand and they get those long trailers to the dorsal fin, and the dorsal fin and the tail fin starts to turn like an iridescence as well as the anal fin, you're looking at something that is majestic. And I think people underestimate just how beautiful that fish is. It digs. So this is not a tank where like, oh, look at my aquascape. No, it's going to mess that up in a very serious way. Trust me. So yeah, but they're good luck. I mean, I've seen those fish kept in conditions that would make people sad, and somehow they managed through. Not that we should be doing that. We absolutely should not be doing that, but very, very hardy fish.
And it's why they're so popular with beginners, because they are a striking fish. They're gorgeous, and they're really cool and pretty and cute all at the same time. I mean, and that's why they're so appealing and super cheap. Yep. But pretty much everybody that buys them ends up realizing they made a mistake eventually.
So the other one that comes to mind once we get to a 55 gallon that is actually quite simple to keep, usually fairly hardy, just your standard fancy goldfish. Not talking about the commons or the comets. Those get way too big, in my opinion, for most aquariums. And I'm not talking about the fancies where they've got the bubble eyes, or they've been bred to look like softballs. I'm talking about just your standard run-of-the-mill fancy goldfish. You throw a couple in a 55 gallon, 2 or 3, and you've got a ridiculously peaceful tank that doesn't even need to be heated. They eat just about anything you throw in the aquarium. If anything, the only issues you're going to have is, well, I'm limited in tank mates, which is fine because they're so full of color and personality, and they're always moving. It almost doesn't matter. So that would be one that I did that in a 75 gallon. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I had thrown in one of my dwarf petricolas had kind of snuck in there and fin-nipped the ever-loving heck out of them. But
oh, no.
That would be a tank that I would seriously consider at some point, once again, if I had at least a 55, setting up a fancy goldfish tank.
I completely agree, and I'm actually upset with you. That's the reason why I slammed my cup down. I don't know if that came down on microphone, but it was because it's another one that you didn't know it, but you stole it from me. Because I only have one more fish on my list, and everybody knows what it is. But I thought about it. I was like, you know what? When we get into these bigger tanks, fancy goldfish, like I agree with you, not the really elaborate cauliflower ones, but like your fantails and things like that. Super easy. And let me tell you something, with the exception of the next fish, the only fish I have left on my list, this fish shows emotion like no other fish in the hobby. And If you walk up to a goldfish tank and the tank has not been properly cared for, the fish in there will make you sad. They will literally make you feel emotion looking at them, because they'll look at you and they'll just have this really sad look on their face. And it's unbelievable. It's mesmerizing. I love fancy goldfish. I am also a sucker for commons and comets. I've got 32 of them right now. 5 of them, 6, 7 of them are Lisa's. But I've also got 27 of them in my pond. But we're not talking about putting those in 55, 75 gallon aquariums. But I don't think there's an easier fish to keep on this planet than, I don't know the difference between common and comet. I love these fish so much. I don't know the difference between the two. I didn't even realize there was such thing as common and comet. I thought they were all comets until Tanner Serpe educated me about that. He was like, no, dummy, that's not a comet. It's a common. And I'm like, well, what? Anyway, but we're not talking about putting those fish in home aquariums unless you have a 300 gallon like Lisa does. But I agree with fancy goldfish, and I'm really upset that you stole it from me, because now I look even dumber, like I'm just copying you.
Can't believe you did that, man. Do your own homework, bro.
I know. I read you the list. Just because goldfish wasn't on my list doesn't mean I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah. Trying to sneak one in there.
Again, there's not much processing up here. Whatever I find, I've got to be able to use it. And if you take it from me, then...
Nice.
Anyway.
So you have one more for the 55, you said?
No, the fancy goldfish was the only one.
Okay, all right.
I have one more fish on my list, and we're not even close to there yet, because
so
we need 2 sizes up.
55, I mean, okay, yeah, those are some easy ones. Again, anything that we've already mentioned can go in a 55 gallon. You've got all of these smaller cichlids too, the curviceps, the keyhole cichlids, what's the other one? Cryptoheros nanoluteus, which is kind of like a convict, just smaller, like a greenish gold and crazy blue eyes. Those are all medium, smaller cichlids that are basically, they're just going to do their thing. By the time we get to the 55s and even the 75s, now you got all your mbunas, and those, generally speaking, good luck. I mean, they can go through a tremendous amount of change and be perfectly fine. Just stay away from the really aggressive ones, the Eratus, the Johannes, what else? DeMasoni. But yeah, those are really good options as well. The one that you've got is for a larger tank, right? I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. And you know.
All right.
Exactly
So if we've got a larger aquarium, what are we doing?
Well, I mean, we're talking about at least a 125. But let me just mention, I agree with you about mbunas, but I'd also like to warn people. Mbunas, I mean, yeah, sometimes. But sometimes they can also be incredibly difficult. They are, kind of hit or miss. And it's not because the fish are hard to keep. It's because they're hard to keep together without them fighting and killing each other. As individuals, 100% mbuna's super easy. Yeah. I mean, they're as easy as they get. But you're not going to want to just keep one by himself. That's just cruel. And you're not going to want to keep 3 or 4. You're going to want to overstock the tank, and that's when things become not so easy. The fish are easy, but the amount of work that's required to keep things easy, that could be a problem. No, when we're talking about bigger tanks and we talk about 125, I don't even need to tell you. I don't even need to say it. I can save everybody the rest of this time. I don't need to tell people what I'm about to say. Why don't you just steal it from me? You've stole all the other ones on my list.
So if I had a 125, I would absolutely take the Oscar, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm sure John was not even going to talk about that.
Never
Forget
thought
the
of
fact
that
he's got them right behind his head over there, but I'll let you go ahead and take over Oscars. Why?
I mean, they are a just add water fish. That's what they are. And you know what? They have a reputation from a lot of people as being evil jerks. I disagree. I've had the exact opposite, except for silver arowanas. Oops, mine had a problem with one of my silver arowanas, but when I originally started with this tank, I had the 2 Oscars, the 2 that are actually right here behind my head, the albino and the tiger, the albino tiger and the tiger, and I had 3 silver arowanas. One of the silver arowanas jumped out, one of them just died, and the third one was killed by them. But even telling you that, I would still say they are usually not a problem as far as aggression towards other fish. You can find a bad seed in every type of fish. I don't care what it is. It could be a guppy that kills everything in the tank. I've never heard that story, but I'm just saying any fish has the potential to break bad. Even Walter White broke bad. But from a care standpoint, as their tolerance for poor water conditions and not enough filtration, and they will tolerate just about anything. I mean, you shouldn't do that. And if you're keeping your Oscars that way, shame on you. But if you need a fish that can keep up with your laziness, the Oscar is the one to do it. And just like the goldfish, they will show emotion. They will let you know when they're not happy. It's really cute while also being really sad at the same time. And you will not find yourself attaching yourself to a fish more than you will to Oscars, because it's cliche at this point, but it's very true, particularly with this fish. They are water puppies. So
yeah, I think that is the pinnacle fish when you're getting into 6-foot tanks in terms of ease, caring. The other one I would add that's a little different, but is also one of the hardiest fish I've ever kept, the Rafy Cat.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for a 6-foot tank. You want to talk about a great tank mate for an Oscar, because the Rafy Cat gets large. It's going to max out usually 8-10 inches. They get kind of round too, but small mouth. So they're really not prone to eating a bunch of other fish. They are not aggressive. They've got a lot of armor on their bodies, so they're not going to be prone to aggression. A lot of fish would just as soon leave them alone rather than try to pick on a fish that's got spikes coming out of its fins and armor coming out of the side of its body. But really great fish. Ours, like I said, it's the oldest fish that we have in our fish room right now, and I believe it's right around 15, 16 years old, and they can live to be like 30 or 40 years old. So this is a long-term commitment when it comes to the Rafy Cat, but that would be one for sure that I would consider for a larger tank.
Now, I don't have any more to add after Oscars, because that's kind of like the mic drop moment for me, but I do have a question for you that is in this topic here. Regardless of tank size, and you better not steal mine. Regardless of tank size is no option. What is the easiest freshwater aquarium fish in the hobby to keep? Don't you steal mine.
Is yours going to be the one you just said?
The Oscars?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
There's a fish that's easier. Like you have to try to kill this fish, and you still probably won't be successful.
Well, now you've got me really excited to hear what you're going to say, because a lot of what we said, I would say rank up there in that. But I know in my brain that I am missing such an obvious fish that it is going to be probably when you say it, I'm like, well, yeah, duh. I can't think of one outside of. Unless you go native, like a bluegill or something like that, which is like, good luck. I mean, just chuck that in a tank. You don't need a heater or anything like that. It's just going to go. You got to tell me, because now I really want to hear it.
Well, and you know what? If you didn't think of this one, then it must be that you are the only person I've ever met in my lifetime, 50 years, that does not look at this as an easy fish to keep. And I don't know where mine is. I'm talking about the common Plecostomus.
Okay. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And probably the reason I didn't think about it is because I would never even venture to keep one, because the largest tank I have is a 125, and that's too small. You got that big tank right there. So
yeah,
perfect. You're 100% right. Yeah.
My common Pleco is actually, I don't even know if you're going to be able to
see him. Is it on the left-hand side?
Right there
in the front?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's him.
Yep.
And his size does not really translate to this screen. He is, if he's not 2 feet, he's 20 inches. I mean, he is a giant, and he's probably not 2 feet. I'm exaggerating. We do that, don't we, as men? But he is an absolute monster, and that fish has been through so much. He's been in so many different tanks. I've got footage that I've used on YouTube a million times when I talk about Plecos. And he's about this big. He was about this big when I got him. If you're not watching video, I'm holding up my fingers, about 5 inches when I got him. I think I paid like $8 for him. And he is just gargantuan now. And he's not just long, he's thick too. He's really tall. And I mean, I would never do this, but I could take this fish, swing him around like a lasso with his tail, throw him in the street, let one of these farmers ride him over with one of his tractors, and then put him back in the tank, and he'd be like, hey, what's going on? They are the most bulletproof fish, and they quite literally have bulletproof armor on them. It's not bulletproof, but you know what I mean. They're impenetrable. They're the easiest thing in the world. And if you've ever had one that died on you, you did something wrong, because they're the definition of a bulletproof fish. More bulletproof than Oscars. The biggest story that I have, I think I've told this on this podcast before. I had a buddy in high school, still a friend of mine, close friend of mine to this day. I was the best man in his wedding. He had a tank, a 55-gallon tank, when he was a kid, which he should not have had a Pleco in. And he was just lost interest and just turned the filter off and just let it go. And the water evaporated all the way down to like 3 inches. And we were having a party because we were young and stupid, having a party at his house. And I guess there was a bump or something. And there was a huge splash in his tank. It was that Pleco, and he was still alive. It had been in there for like a year when the water evaporated all the way down that far. No food, not being fed anything. That fish was still alive and completely fine. In fact, he filled the tank back up the next day, got everything running again, and the fish lived for like another 10 years. So, I mean, you really have to put forth an effort to kill the common Pleco. In my opinion, it is the easiest fish in the hobby to keep. Anybody, a 3-year-old could keep a common Pleco, but they shouldn't, but they could.
Yeah, I agree. If I had to put all of my money on the line and say, okay, pick a fish that is going to basically survive whatever situation.
The apocalypse.
It's the common Pleco, but it's also the fish that I recommend to almost no one.
Me too.
Because unless you have that 8-foot aquarium or larger, they don't belong in your tank, because when you've got a fish that can max out at 24 inches or maybe larger, and like you said, it's not just how long they get, it's how wide and how tall, how much of a mess they can create. When they do freak out, they're just stirring up all kinds of stuff. They'll rip up an aquascape, forget plants. So it's a fish that very few people should keep. But if you are looking for the easiest, hardiest fish on planet Earth, I don't know if you can. I can't make an argument for any other fish, with the exception of maybe the Rafy Cat. But no, I'd still put my money on the common Pleco.
Yeah, I love the Rafy Cat because it's a catfish that has all the behavior of a catfish, but without all the size. Yeah. You know, like a red tail, one of the most beautiful fish that's ever been in the hobby, but very, very few people can actually keep. So you get that look, even though they don't look like the red tail, but they act like a catfish and they do their thing. But what do they max out at, like 8 inches?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, nothing extreme, and absolutely bulletproof. And you know what? I will give for another big tank fish. We might as well round up my whole 360 here. And yes, this is exactly the reason why I've got them. Bikers, Bashirs, call them whatever you want to call them. They're another one that is super, super easy, and can probably tolerate more parameters even than Oscars can, because they're capable of breathing air. And so I am absolutely fascinated with these fish. I had Senegals when I was younger, but that was the extent of my biker keeping. When I got my Enlicari, which is the one that keeps swimming back and forth, and my Lepradi, which is, he's back in the other corner. You can't see him. I just absolutely fell in love with those fish. Paid a lot of money for them. I think I paid, there's my Enly there. I think I paid $500 total for the two. $250 a piece, and it was worth every single penny. I absolutely love them. They're like little dinosaurs. Mine are named Crab and Goyle, and the ornate's name is Draco. You don't even know what that's about because you're a fuddy-duddy that doesn't watch Harry Potter. But I love them, and they're super easy to keep, but you need the right size tank.
Yep. So I think we did a good job today.
I think we did
a good job of talking about some easy, hardy fish to keep. Would love to hear from you as always. We want to hear from you in the comments. What do you got? What has been just a fish that you're like, okay, if I had to bet money on this fish surviving, living a long time, being easy to keep, what is it? So something we didn't mention, especially as we got to the 55s and 75s and just kind of blew through those real quick.
I guarantee you there's 1,000 fish we didn't mention.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. As always, we really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. We're going to be back same time, same place next week. Have a good week, everybody.